Hey guys, today we are going to be talking about the remaining portion of the First Amendment that we need to cover, which is freedom of religion. So make sure that you guys watch the freedom of speech and press video first, and then we're going to wrap up freedom of religion today. So our learning targets are to differentiate between the establishment and free exercise clauses of the First Amendment. Those are the two clauses that deal with religious freedom, and explain how the Supreme Court's interpretation of the First Amendment's freedom of religion clauses have changed over time to balance individual liberty and the promotion of public safety and order. And remember, this is our framework for this unit. In what circumstances does the Supreme Court and our government promote individual freedom? And in what circumstances do they restrict freedom in favor of public safety and order? So we have to talk about religion in America, and we see two trends in our country. Historically, we have been a nation that is very religious, predominantly Christian. And statistically, 7 out of 10 Americans identify as some sort of Christian-based faith, whether that's Catholicism or Protestant. That is a pretty large statistic, 70%. 22% identify as not religious, whether that's atheism or no religion, or agnostic, meaning no real formal religion. They believe in some sort of divine being, but they don't adhere to one specific religion. And then 4% in our country identify as following a faith that is different from Christianity. And the second trend in our country is rising secularism. And secularism is like non-religious. So what we've seen over time is that people are becoming less religious. The younger generations, you guys included, are our least religious generation to date. So these two trends bring up some pretty important questions when it comes to our civil liberties and how the Supreme Court will interpret them. So the question is, first, why is a country that has historically been Christian been adamant about the freedom of religion, right? Usually, if we are historically Christian, the majority is Christian, a lot of countries would be pretty forward in promoting pro-Christian policies. So why have we been so adamant about freedom of religion? And as we become less religious, will those religious rights and freedoms change over time in terms of the Supreme Court and their interpretation of our civil liberties? Now, religion goes back to the founding of our country. We had a religious start. So most people came to this country to avoid religious persecution in Europe, right? So the Catholics, the Quakers, etc., set up in the colonies to avoid religious persecution or discrimination back in Europe. But as a country, we have not always been tolerant of new religions. So this brings to mind the Mormons, banishing them to Utah, essentially, the Salem witch trials in our early years as a country, post 9/11, when we look at the treatment of people of Middle Eastern descent and the Islamic faith. Right, over time they get integrated into our framework of religion, but new religions on the scene are not always tolerated. Now, our defining principle of religion in our country was brought forward by TJ, stands for Thomas Jefferson, but is basically this wall of separation between church and state. Right, we really wanted to keep things separated between politics and the church. And Thomas Jefferson had this idea because traditionally, when the church and the government mix, one ends up dominating the other to the detriment of both. So for instance, when the church controls the government, so I'm thinking of like the popes and the Catholic Church from monarchies in Europe in like the 1300s and beyond. This was especially bad during this time for minority religious believers who are persecuted, right? If the church is in charge, anyone who doesn't believe in that church's faith is going to be targeted. Now, on the flip side of things, when the government commodifies religion, it can abuse rights as well. So think about Hitler in Germany during the Nazi era in World War II. Hitler actually used churches to carry out government policies. So I mean, obviously, the founding fathers would never have known about that possibility, but they really wanted to make sure that government and politics did not mix. And the Supreme Court rulings and interpretations of the religious clauses that we're going to look at next really show a commitment to individual liberties and an effort to balance the religious practices of majorities with the free exercise of minority religious practices, all while keeping order and safety for the public. So the First Amendment religious clauses say Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. So you'll notice there are two pieces there, and we're going to break it down bit by bit. So the very first clause is the Establishment Clause, and this says the U.S. government cannot favor one religion over another in terms of policies and decisions. So they must treat all religious beliefs equally. They cannot favor one over the other, meaning we cannot have a national religion, and we cannot have religious tests for public officials. Now, some important cases to know, Lemon v. Kurtzman deals with money to religious schools, right? That is an issue. Schools are technically federally funded, but what happens if it's a private school or a parochial school, like Elder, for instance, here in our city? This case said that a school that is a religious school can receive money for non-religious purposes, like, for example, busing. However, they cannot receive funding for religious purposes. That would be, for example, paying teachers, right? Because that teacher would ultimately be responsible for, during the school day, teaching about or pushing one religion over another. At Elder, for example, that teacher would have Christian values that they are teaching, Catholic values that they are teaching throughout their school day, and that would violate the Establishment Clause. Ultimately, this led to the Lemon Test, the measure of whether or not the state has violated the Establishment Clause. So they must have a secular or non-religious purpose that neither endorses nor disapproves of religion, and it must avoid creating a relationship between religion and the government. Now, a required court case that you need to know is Engel versus Vitale, and this dealt with school prayer at the beginning of the school day. And ultimately, it was decided in this court case that schools cannot force students to pray because that is showing favoritism to one particular religious belief. So if you ever see a question regarding Engel versus Vitale, it's going to be asking you about the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. Okay. The second clause of freedom of religion is Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise thereof. And that is the Free Exercise Clause. This prohibits the government from interfering with your personal practice of religion. Now, that is not absolute. You cannot do anything and claim it to be a part of your religion. There are restrictions on this. Where your religious rights begin to conflict with the rights of others, that's when they start to deny or punish your freedom of religion, meaning maybe the practice would be illegal or deeply opposes the interests of the community. So some cases to know that are examples of the Free Exercise Clause in action. Minersville School District versus Gobitas, dealing with the Pledge of Allegiance in schools. This said that if your religious convictions don't allow you to say the Pledge of Allegiance, because maybe you're not allowed to pledge your allegiance to someone other than God, for example, you cannot be forced to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, Reynolds versus United States, on the other hand, is a restriction of free exercise. This is a case dealing with polygamy. So he was a Mormon, Reynolds was a Mormon, and the courts ruled against him, saying that no, polygamy is not protected under the clause because it is illegal and it deeply opposes the moral interests of our country. So that is restricting freedom of religion based on this interpretation. And then we have Yoder versus Wisconsin, which is a required court case that you guys need to know, and this dealt with Amish and schooling. Now, typically, our law requires that students receive a K through 12 education. However, the Amish say that they should be able to leave early due to religious practice after 8th grade. That's when the young people of the Amish community leave school to go and work in the fields and develop their trade. Ultimately, the court decided that yes, because that is a religious practice, Amish children are permitted to be pulled out of school by the time they are in 8th grade. So that is an example of an extension of free religion based on that free exercise clause. So just as we've done in our other lessons, you guys are going to be taking a look at freedom of religion case studies. I'm going to have you do all of them on this. There are only 3. And what you guys are going to be doing is for each telling me which clause is being addressed in that scenario. Is it free exercise or the Establishment Clause? And I want to know how you think the Supreme Court would rule on that particular case. Would they say that that is an example of freedom of religion, or would they say that no, that particular instance is not protected under the First Amendment freedom of religion protections? Okay, so if you guys have any questions, please reach out through email or make sure to log in to office hours in Google Meet, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.